everyone, welcome back to another segment of Tina Talks. And today I will have Deb Baker here again from London Baker Law. Hi, Deb.
Hey, good morning, Tina.
How are you?
Well, we're dressed alike, so how much better could I be?
Exactly, right? Those of us who haven't seen you on Tina Talks before, can you give the viewer a little bit information about you and what you do?
Sure. I practice law in the area of estate planning and probate, and we provide concierge, compassionate caring services in that area. Um, so we're here for you today and your loved ones tomorrow. And estate planning is a complicated process, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of that later.
Okay. So I know that our topic are the two things that you think it's very important, and I hear you talk about it all the time. The first one is power of attorney, and the
Mhm.
other one is healthcare surrogate. Could
Right.
you give us more information about those two topics today?
Sure. Um, Now, I only practice law in Florida, so it may be different in different states. The power of attorney is one where an individual gives another individual the right to make financial decisions for them, um, pay their bills, access their digital assets, access a safety deposit box if they have one. It's important because, and in Florida, they go into effect the moment they're signed, which means you better trust the person you're appointing because they could do some not so great things if you don't really trust them. It's an important document because without it, let's just say you have a safe deposit box. A lot of people don't, a lot of people do. And something happens to you after banking hours on a weekend or on a national holiday. Well, you can't get to it. But with a power of attorney, you can't get to it in any of those situations, but you can get to it the next day the bank opens. Without the power of attorney, it's a legal hassle. It's a court hassle. Um, Without a power of attorney, if you're an individual without another signer on your bank account, nobody can pay your bills. If they don't have access to your digital assets, passwords and stuff, they can't do it because they can't do it. And people don't think of these things. There's no reason for them to think of these things. You run into people all the time, Tina, who ask you what sound like, how could you not know this? But you're a realtor, so you work with it all the time. What I tell people I work with, there's no reason for you to know this. Why would you know this? Why would you know that you can't leave money to a child who's less than 18? Why would you know that? There's no reason for you to know that. But the power of attorney is one, and in Florida, it has 17 sections that have to be initialed separately. They're called superpowers. So you might give somebody the right to access your finances, but you won't give them access to your safe deposit box for whatever reason. I've had people who say, I'll never have a safe deposit box. I said, I want you to sign it because if for some reason you open one and you don't give someone the right to access, it's unavailable to them. And I've learned that as important as a will is, which takes care of things after you die, that power of attorney is all about as long as you're living. And it stays in effect in Florida, even in the event of incapacity, terrible car accident, something like that. Um, it's really an essential document. And people have old ones. So just thinking about this, and the law changed in Florida in 2011, and I've got clients who had theirs from 2009. It's not that they're not valid, and it's less likely that somebody will recognize them. I mean, they recognize instantly that they're valid, so then you can lose 3 days going through some bank's legal department. And if you need access to my bank account right away to pay my bills, and you have to wait 72 hours, that's not a pretty picture. So it needs to be current, and it needs to be having somebody you really trust appointed. The healthcare surrogate, same idea. It's do you have somebody you've appointed to make healthcare decisions for you in the event you cannot? Um, whether it's to have a surgery, to have a specific treatment. Um, people have medical issues, whether it's diabetes or high blood pressure or whatever, that have to be factored in if you're going to do a surgery. Does the diabetic get their insulin correctly? Does the person with high blood pressure get their medication correctly? And you want to appoint somebody who's going to be able to do that for you the way you want, not the way they want. So again, it needs to be, do you trust the person to follow your wishes, even if it's against theirs, regardless of what it's about? Um, and the other thing that the healthcare surrogate does is they get to have access to your medical records. They get to they're allowed to talk to your doctors. And you want to appoint somebody who's not going to be cowed by a diagnosis. I went to execute emergency documents at Tampa General Hospital on Friday for a gentleman who unfortunately may have already passed. And I don't know that his family agreed with what he might want to do, but they have to be able to, and they have to emotionally be prepared. I always recommend that somebody appoints a primary person and they appoint a backup. The backup being, should the primary person not be emotionally able to do it when they thought they were when you appointed them, but they're not so sure now. And the backup person, and it needs to be a person, again, who's going to do what you want. The thing I've been doing for the last few years for females, because I can't say they're women necessarily, but females who are of childbearing age, is the document has a proviso in there that in the event something happens to them, they can choose to be kept on life support, where they would normally choose life support. They can choose life support until the baby is delivered, until the baby dies, unfortunately, or the mother naturally aborts it. But that's a decision you really want to give to somebody who's going to do it, because I can imagine cases where in an early stage, or if a woman's pregnant, their husband can't imagine watching them on life support for 9 months, or doesn't believe in it. So again, it's got to be somebody, and a woman should have the right, the female should have the right to choose whether they want that or not. That would have never occurred to me. I've been an attorney now for just under 6 years. That would have never occurred to me when I started, but when I first heard it, I thought, of course, because if you express that wish, then your family will be much more likely to go along with it, whether they agree with it or not. And that's another thing. So those things are. I've got one client now where we're doing those documents plus the living will, which is like your end of life stuff, before we're doing a will, because right now they have an urgent need to put those people in place. And people say, why? I said, because these things, people avoid estate planning. We were talking about it before we started because they think it'll bring bad luck. And I've had people say that, I'll die. It's like, okay, whatever you say. But what they don't remember is the powers of attorney, your healthcare surrogates, they last until you change them. They are good as long as you're alive. So, and they're part of the plan, and people think, oh, it's a will. It's much, much bigger than a will. It's if you have life insurance, this isn't death insurance, but this is like life. You've heard me say that estate planning is grief sparing. You don't want to get to a point, even in what was an unavoidable car accident, and have your family wondering, what are you supposed to do? And what do we do now? Not unless, as I've said, if you hate your family, don't do it. If you love your family, then, it might be something you want to do. I'm watching our clock. So So, I would say that if I have a couple minutes, I'll just, the living will is that's where you're aware and your doctors are aware that you're probably not going to survive this illness. And then it's about making decisions about, do you want to be artificially fed? Do you want CPR? And again, you want to express those wishes because you don't want the grief-stricken child or spouse say, keep her alive when you've made your wishes clear that don't. If they cannot see me recovering from this, recovering means alert, functioning, your brain is working, even if your body isn't working, but your brain is functioning, whatever you define it as, then you want them to just let you go peacefully, however much it breaks their heart. And I've said on some of the meetings we're in together that it's always interesting to talk about this stuff because it's not where people laugh. I'm not, it's not a light subject, but it's so. And every time somebody calls me with an urgent need, like an urgent inquiry where they don't necessarily have to do anything right away, it's another thing convincing me that it's just really, it's just important. It's just important. So that's yeah.
You have mentioned the power of attorney,
Mm-hmm.
healthcare surrogate, and a living
Mm-hmm.
will. And
Correct.
those are three things. So a lot of time I feel like people assume that they can just get one thing done and it cover everything. And
Yes,
I
they do.
and so I can see how you explaining it. So the power of attorney, is it just for financial items like paying bills while you're incapable of doing it temporarily, right? And
Well,
then,
yes. Assuming you've appointed somebody you really trust, I'm only going to pay your bills until such time as you're able to do it again.
okay.
I'm
And
not going to
you
exercise
can,
that power of attorney after that.
okay. And then the healthcare surrogate is someone making health choices as far as doctors, surgeries, anything like that. And then a
Correct.
living will is something that if you were to pass, what they're going to do with your property or things after you're
No,
done
no,
or your
that's in
wishes.
your will. The living will is you are you know somebody who's gotten terminal diagnosis of X, whatever,
Right.
cancer, COVID, COPD. The living will is a document that expires when you die, but it's how you want that to happen.
I
You
see. Okay.
okay. The will, great. So your power of attorney, your healthcare surrogate, and your living will effectively burn up the moment you die.
Okay.
Okay. Your will then comes into place about
What's
I
going to
want
happen next after you pass?
what happens to what you own. Do you have somebody in place to purchase the rights to Tina Talks, or right? Who's going to get the home? What do you want your children to get at certain ages?
I
I
see.
just
Okay.
the will happens goes into effect the moment you die. The other documents are in effect while you're living.
I see. Okay. So
Okay.
truly, it's the four document that you have to worry about. Three, while you're living, is the power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, and a living will.
Correct.
And then the one that you have to worry about when you pass is your will.
Correct.
So those are four things that everybody should know about. Reach out to Deb Baker and learn more about these four documents because they're very important. And it's especially with the crazy world today, you don't truly know what's going to happen. And you want to make sure that your loved one knows what you want to do with your financial, with your health, with your wishes of what you want to do. So it's so important, and I highly recommend everyone who watch this and haven't have any of those or even just one or two of those in place because you think it cover for everything, reach back out to Deb and learn more about it. Thank you so much, Deb, for being on Tina Talks today and share with
Okay.
us your knowledge and your expertise.
Thanks, Tina. It's so great to see you.
All right. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, honey.
Bye.